Namaste, Kia ora, and good day, friends. We are with Mr. Chris Hipkins, Labour Party leader and the former Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Hipkins, for your time to speak to the Indian News.
Namaste, great to be here and great to have this opportunity to speak with you as well.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Hipkins, how would you rate the performance of the present government?
I think this is a government that's failed to deliver on the promises that it made to New Zealanders.
Yeah.
They said they were going to fix the cost of living. The cost of living's gotten worse. They said that they were going to grow the economy, and the economy's shrunk. They said they were going to fix unemployment, and there are more people unemployed now than there were when they became the government.
Yeah.
So New Zealanders have every right to feel very disappointed in the performance of this government because they haven't done the things that they said they were going to do.
What will be Labour Party's top priorities heading into election?
Our top priorities are cost of living, number one. It's the number one issue that people are raising with us. So that's forefront in all of our thinking around policy going into government and going into the election campaign. And then followed by jobs, health and homes. Because those are the foundations. If people have a good, well-paid job, if they can access healthcare when they need it, if they've got a place that they can call home, then they've got the foundations of being able to have a good life here in New Zealand. So jobs, health, homes, and of course, action on the cost of living.
Do you think these reasons are good enough for people or New Zealanders to vote you in the next election?
Absolutely. We've seen a steady increase in our support since the last election, but we're taking nothing for granted. Yeah. We'll be campaigning hard every single day between now and the next election to get every single vote that we can, because every vote will matter. All elections in New Zealand have been close elections in the last 20 or 30 years, and I think this will be another close election. But there is a mood for change because people are really disappointed by what they've received under this government.
Do you think this government in the past 2.5 years done anything which you would be appreciative of?
Well, there's plenty of things that we agree with the government on a day-to-day basis on. Some of the changes that they've made around community safety have had Labour's support. Yeah. Some of the other changes that they've been making around, even in the environment space, there are some changes that we support. There are some that we don't. We support some of the changes that have been made, both started under us and continued under them, around infrastructure, because we do have to do a better job of funding infrastructure in New Zealand. So I've been really clear that we're not going to throw out progress just because the other side started something. We'll only make change where there's a really good reason to make change.
The condition of the businesses in the country or the situation of the economy, what do you blame it for basically? Like, is the mismanagement of this government, or it's the overall impact of the global economy or the global situation?
I think the businesses in New Zealand are being hit by three things really.
Yeah.
The first is the global uncertainty at the moment, the big spike in the price of fuel, the challenges that that's throwing up for our exporters. That's having a really disruptive effect in the business community.
Yeah.
The government's decision to withdraw a lot of government investment, so it's cutting back on money that we were spending in infrastructure areas, cutting back on employment, cutting jobs. These are having flow-on effects to businesses throughout the economy. And then, of course, the third thing is higher inflation. Higher inflation does have an impact on businesses. And while we made progress in getting inflation back down again, it's going up again now. And so those things, I think those three things are really having quite a big impact on businesses.
So how do you rate this government's performance? Have they handled the situation really well, or they have not?
Government's decision to cut a whole lot of government spending has had a real impact on businesses.
Yeah.
Their decision to cut a whole lot of jobs has had an impact on businesses. Every person that loses their job is one less consumer walking through the door of a retail business or a hospitality business.
Yeah.
And they've massively underestimated the impact that that's had. Public servants that are losing their jobs aren't just in Wellington, they're all over the country. 20% of the people working for our public services are here in Auckland. So when you cut large numbers of jobs in the way this government have done, it's going to have a flow-on effect to the broader economy.
Now, Mr. Hipkins, you recently announced the candidacy of Labour Party's candidates, though it could be a matter of jubilation for most of the Indian community people. But there was a lot of controversy around one name, Mr. Rakesh Naidu. What's your take about it? How would you explain it? Why the controversy at all actually came up?
Well, there shouldn't be any controversy. If anything, there should be a celebration about the fact that Rakesh Naidu, who was one of the most senior is actually, I think at the moment, the most senior ethnic police officer in the country, is hugely respected across our communities. He's been a lead for the police and their work with ethnic communities across New Zealand. He's had a distinguished career. He's a man of utmost principle and integrity. I think we should be celebrating the fact that he's decided to stand
But
for
what
Parliament.
went wrong? Why the police boss, I mean the police minister, both had to say a lot of things about it? He didn't follow the proper procedure or something informing the department.
He absolutely followed the appropriate procedure, which was once he had decided that he was definitely a candidate, he informed the police. Once he was selected as a candidate, he informed the police again about that. I think there's some politics playing out here. Mark Mitchell clearly is upset about the fact that he's such a well-respected member of our community and he's standing for Labour, when the National Party, I think, previously have thought that the police all voted National. I think they're smarting from that a little bit at the moment. And Rakesh is going to be an outstanding member of Parliament. And let's also be clear, the National Party have got a real double standard here. When Don Brash went from being the Reserve Bank governor to being a National Party candidate, they didn't seem to think that was a problem. When Tim Grosser went from being an overseas-based trade negotiator to being a National Party candidate, they didn't have a problem with that either. They seem to have a different standard when it comes to a member of the police who's very well respected in our ethnic communities making the transition to being a political candidate.
So you term it as a political rhetoric only?
Oh, I think it's very much politics. There is absolutely no reason for questioning Rakesh Naidu's integrity. He is, I think, beyond reproach when it comes to those things. And he is very, very well respected because of that.
If your government comes back to power in this year's election, will you still go ahead with your capital gain tax policy?
Yes. So we've been clear that we'll be introducing a targeted capital gains tax on residential property, excluding the family home, and on commercial property. It will not apply to farms, it won't apply to businesses, it won't apply to savings and investments like KiwiSaver, it won't apply to shares. It will be targeted, and we'll be using that money to fix the funding hole that we currently have in our public health system. So 3 free doctors' visits and other initiatives that will help people to stay healthy. As I said, health is one of those top 4 priorities that we've set out, and this is one of the ways that we can make a greater investment in preventative healthcare to keep people healthy.
Wonderful. Now, Mr. Hipkins, you probably would be aware Prime Minister Modi is due to visit New Zealand soon, sometime in early July. And this is going to be the first prime ministerial visit from India in 40 years. How do you rate this visit, and how do you think India-New Zealand relations are going to be after this visit? What are your expectations?
I think it's really exciting that Prime Minister Modi's coming to New Zealand. When I met with him at the Pacific Island Forum back in 2023, I encouraged him to come and visit New Zealand. It's really exciting that he's now has the opportunity to do that. I think we'll be able to, although he's only going to be here for a brief period of time from what I understand, I think we'll be able to showcase a little bit of New Zealand to him, and he'll be able to touch base with the Indian community here in New Zealand, which is a big part of our community, particularly here in Auckland.
So if your party comes in power at this year's election, how are you going to go ahead with the India-New Zealand relation? We have recently signed the free trade agreement with India. So how is your government going to deal with this?
We're very supportive of the New Zealand-India free trade agreement. When we were in government, we were trying to negotiate a free trade agreement with India, but they weren't really in a zone where they wanted to negotiate with New Zealand. That's all changed in the last few years, and India has been negotiating trade agreements with other countries around the world. And that was a great opportunity for New Zealand to be able to negotiate something that 2 or 3, even 4 years ago wasn't possible. So I think it's really exciting, and it's going to open up a lot of economic opportunity. There are some risks that Kiwi exporters need to be aware of, but overall I think it's good.
There are a lot of apprehensions within particularly in the Kiwi community about this deal. Would you want to put some light about it, so there's some doubts or anything which can be cleared? There are a lot of people, especially the Kiwi community I'm talking.
I think some of the anxiety is around immigration, and I don't think that's substantiated. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's necessary. We looked at that very, very closely. We scrutinised those provisions around migration very, very closely, and I'm not worried about those. I think there is some concern around the outward investment clause in the agreement that commits New Zealand to a level of investment from New Zealand into India, but I think it's highly unlikely we will be able to achieve. And that means that a future government in India could take away some of the access to India that we've been able to achieve economically through this agreement. So we need to be eyes wide open about that potential risk. overall, the short-term benefits could still be quite significant, but any businesses who are increasing their exports to India just need to be aware that there is still some risk that that market access could be removed at a future point if we don't hit that investment, target,
Yeah.
which we're very unlikely to be able to meet.
But ideally, India being such a huge market, it should be more beneficial for New Zealand than for India.
Well, that's why we weighed this up very carefully. We're very supportive of more trade between New Zealand and India, and we do see significant opportunities. There are some risks with this trade agreement that we haven't had with previous trade agreements, which is why we took our time to make sure we were scrutinising it very closely.
Yeah.
But on balance, we also made the calculation that there were more benefits to New Zealand than risks. There are risks, and people need to be aware of them, but the benefits are also quite significant.
Great. Now, what message would you want to give to the community, particularly the Indian community, for the upcoming elections?
My message to the Indian community is we really appreciate the support that we've received from you over a long period of time in the Labour Party.
Yeah.
We've never taken that for granted, and we won't be taking it for granted at this year's election. I know there were issues at the last election where many of our Indian community felt that the Labour Party hadn't done enough, and small crime that was affecting small business was one of those areas where they wanted to see more from us there. And so I've heard that message, and we certainly want to send some reassurance that we understand that we needed to do more in that area. But the anti-migrant rhetoric that our Indian community are being subjected to at the moment, some of the outright racism that our Indian community are being subjected to at the moment is just totally unacceptable. So I also want to provide a reassurance to our Indian community that we will call that out when we see that.
Have you any plans in place to put a check on these activities?
Yeah, we will call that out when we see it. We will not tolerate it.
Yeah.
I will not tolerate that from anybody and any government that I lead. Any Labour Party candidate engaging in that kind of anti-migrant rhetoric won't be a Labour Party candidate for very long. There's no place for that in New Zealand politics. We're a very rich, multicultural country. That's something to celebrate, not something to use as a political divide.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Hipkins.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you very
much. Thank you so
Cheers.
much. Yeah.
Thank you.